Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive into something incredibly fundamental to who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's the human imperative to be unique, to feel special or different.
Right, that feeling.
And it's not just some fleeting desire, is it? It's this deep-seated drive psychologists actually call the need for uniqueness, or NFU for short.
Exactly. NFU. It's a
Yeah.
core concept.
We've got this incredible stack of sources for today's deep dive, including an AI-driven scientific study, actually. So we can explore this from pretty much every angle.
Clearly covering the bases.
Yeah, from our genes and brain chemistry all the way up to how it shapes our societies, our cultures, maybe even our future.
It connects to so much.
So our mission today, let's try to uncover why this need is so powerful, maybe see how it manifests in some surprising ways, and really figure out what it means for how you, our listener, live and learn and connect with the world.
It's going to be insightful, I think.
Yeah, I think you're going to gain some truly eye-opening perspectives that might just redefine what you thought you knew about being uniquely you.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, the foundational science, this need for uniqueness, NFU. It's described as a core human drive.
A defining force, some sources say.
Right, a defining force in the shaping of human identity. It pushes us to feel special, different. We see it everywhere, right? Consumption choices, nonconformity.
Absolutely. It pops up all over.
No, I understand it's considered a stable personality trait, but also it's heavily influenced by our circumstances or culture. How does that duality work?
Yeah, that's a really insightful point, that duality. Its stability suggests it's inherent, probably universal. Deep evolutionary roots likely common to all humans.
Okay, so something built in.
Built in, yes. But the really fascinating part is how its expression is so incredibly adaptable. It gets shaped by external things, culture, specific situations you're in.
So the basic need is there, but how it looks depends on where you are.
Precisely. Think of it as a universal human desire for distinctiveness. But the specific flavor of that distinctiveness, and whether it's, healthy or maybe maladaptive, that's profoundly influenced by your environment.
And adaptively, there must have been some advantage.
Well, almost certainly. It could reduce direct competition, right? By encouraging niche specialization, finding your own little thing.
Ah, okay. I'll be the berry gatherer, you be the hunter.
Sort of, yeah. And it fosters individual recognition, maybe catalyzes innovation, creativity, people trying new things.
So the takeaway is trying to squash this need completely. Probably not a good idea for, human flourishing.
That's what the sources suggest, yeah. It might actually be counterproductive.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And it goes even deeper, right? Down to our biology, our genetics.
Oh, absolutely.
When we talk about being unique down to our DNA, what's really happening there? How does that biological blueprint feed into this drive?
Well, our uniqueness isn't just skin deep. It goes way beyond anatomy. It's rooted in our exceptional sociality, how we cooperate, use energy.
Okay.
And genetically, our individuality is maintained by this constant influx of rare genetic variants.
Yeah.
Plus, the shuffling of genes during reproduction meiosis.
It's a genetic lottery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting, perhaps surprising. A lot of the core of individuality might not just be in the genes themselves, the coding sequences, but significantly in the non-coding sequences, the parts that regulate how genes are expressed.
Non-coding sequences. Okay, break that down. Give me a simple analogy. What are those?
Sure. Think of your genes like the words in a recipe book, the ingredients.
Okay.
The non-coding sequences are like the instructions on how to use those ingredients, the bold print, the italics, the chef's notes.
Yeah.
Maybe even the volume knob for each flavor.
Ah, the volume knob. I like that.
Yeah. These regulatory regions, they interact with control proteins, and they show substantial individual variation. So it's not just the DNA recipe you inherit, but how those genetic volume knobs are set, often influenced by your environment, by the way that really sculpts your unique blueprint. It impacts appearance, development, disease predispositions.
Wow. And these differences in the knobs, they're heritable too.
Many of them are, yes, which underscores how individuality gets passed down.
So our bodies are literally wired for uniqueness.
In a very real sense, yes.
Which brings us neatly to the neuroscience. What's going on in the brain when we want to be special? That wanting feeling.
Right. So neurologically, desire is what scientists call wanting or incentive salience. It's basically the brain signaling that something is highly relevant right now based on goals, needs learning.
Okay, relevance.
And it's really important to distinguish this wanting from liking. Liking is the actual pleasure, the hedonic hit you get from the reward itself.
Ah, so wanting the cake versus actually enjoying eating the cake.
Exactly. And different brain mechanisms handle those. This distinction has huge implications for understanding things like addiction, even free will. Now, the need for uniqueness, being a motivation, likely taps into our mesolimbic dopamine pathways. That's the brain's core reward system, the engine that makes us pursue things.
The go-get-it system.
Pretty much. It suggests that the wanting to be unique is a powerful, almost instinctual drive. And crucially, it can be independent of whether achieving that uniqueness always results in pure pleasure or liking.
So we might strive to be unique, even if it sometimes makes us feel awkward or stressed.
Precisely. The drive itself is compelling. The implication is profound. This desire is hardwired, not always about immediate warm fuzzies. So interventions, if needed, have to consider these fundamental reward mechanisms.
That's a powerful connection. Okay, so we've laid the biological bedrock. Let's pivot now to how this internal drive interacts with the world around us. Specifically, how we shape our identity.
Right, the self.
Erickson famously noted, identity is profoundly shaped by our sociocultural contexts. Can you give us a quick way to think about the difference between, say, looking inward for identity versus building it through our interactions?
Sure. We can simplify it maybe into two broad views. There's reflective identity. That sees identity as individual, well, kind of separate from context. Something you build through introspection, commitments, like an internal CV.
My personal narrative.
Exactly. Then contrast that with situated identity. This view sees identity as fundamentally social. It's constructed through the constant back and forth of interactions within broader social contexts, institutions, power structures like race, class, gender.
So less about who am I in isolation, more who am I in this situation with these people.
Yes, exactly. Identity here is seen as fluid, dynamic, performative. It's shaped moment by moment.
Okay.
So the critical insight, the real tension here, is between that internal imperative to be different, our NFU, and the external social norms and power structures. These external forces constantly define what different means, what kind of uniqueness is valued, how you're supposed to express it.
So it's a constant negotiation.
It's an ongoing negotiation, absolutely. Which explains why feeling unique can be incredibly fulfilling when it aligns with social acceptance, but also a major source of conflict or distress when it clashes with those external expectations.
And this links straight into self-esteem, doesn't it? And consistency.
Directly.
The need for uniqueness is intricately tied to self-esteem. We know low self-esteem can predict social problems. And if our self-worth depends on external validation, like, I'm only worthy if people see me as uniquely beautiful or smart.
Right, the contingency track.
Yeah. That pursuit of uniqueness can become maladaptive, lead to chronic distress. People end up chasing external admiration instead of intrinsic interests, and life satisfaction plummets.
It's a dangerous path.
Now, there's also this idea, self-verification theory. It says we value consistency in how we see ourselves, even if that view is negative.
That's right. It's a fascinating concept.
Does this desire for consistency ever work against us, like keep us stuck?
It absolutely can. Self-verification theory suggests we actively seek confirmation of our self-concepts, even the negative ones.
Why would we do that?
Well, the idea is it helps stabilize our self-concept. It makes the world feel more predictable if people see us the way we see ourselves. People with high self-esteem expect this consistency even more.
Okay.
But here's the counterintuitive twist you hinted at. Someone with a negative self-concept, maybe they believe they're uniquely flawed or incompetent. They might subconsciously seek out interactions or feedback that confirms that negative uniqueness. It inadvertently perpetuates their own distress.
Wow. So the need for things to make sense, to be consistent, can actually override the desire to feel good about ourselves.
In some cases, yes.
Yeah.
It highlights how the desire for consistency can be a real double-edged sword for well-being.
That's a fascinating paradox. It makes me think about social media. You see people trying so hard to be different, but often ending up looking, well, kind of the same.
Right, the curated uniqueness.
Does that fit with Leon Festinger's classic theory from 1954 about social comparison?
Yeah.
That we figure ourselves out by comparing ourselves to others?
It fits perfectly. Festinger's theory is foundational here. He argued we evaluate ourselves by comparing, especially when objective measures aren't available, which is often the case for things like uniqueness.
So how do we compare?
Well, he identified a few types. There's downward comparison, comparing to those worse off, which boosts our self-regard. At least I'm not doing as badly as them.
Okay, feeling better by comparison.
Then upward comparison, looking at more successful peers. This can be inspiring, sure, but if your self-esteem is shaky, it can just make you feel worse.
The comparison is the thief of joy thing.
Exactly. And lateral comparison, comparing to similar peers, mostly for accurate self-assessment. How am I doing relative to my cohort?
And modern media, especially social media, it
Yeah.
just pours gasoline on this, right?
Oh, completely amplifies it. Presents these often unrealistic ideals, curated snapshots, leading frequently to negative feelings.
So the core insight here, uniqueness itself kind of needs a reference point. You're unique compared to others.
That's the paradox, isn't it? The desire to be distinct is often fulfilled or challenged through the very act of comparing yourself to the group. Downward comparison can affirm your specialness, while upward comparison can threaten it.
So fostering a healthy sense of uniqueness probably means developing more of an internal benchmark, less reliance on looking sideways all the time.
That seems to be the key, yes. An internal locus of validation, reducing that dependence on external comparisons.
Okay, so if our internal sense of uniqueness is constantly negotiating with these external forces and comparisons, let's zoom out further. How does this play out in big societal structures, cultural evolution?
Right, the macro level.
A huge piece of this seems to be the tension between individualism and collectivism.
Mhm.
How do those cultural lenses shape this need for uniqueness?
They shape it profoundly. Individualism, with roots in the Enlightenment, Industrial Revolution, Protestantism, Romanticism.
Yeah.
It emphasizes moral worth, autonomy, self-reliance, personal freedom.
The focus is on the I.
Exactly. It values self-expression, competition, achievement. Now, what's crucial here is that individualistic societies inherently amplify the need for uniqueness. Autonomy and self-expression are prized. This fosters innovation, sure, but can also lead to hyper-individualism.
And collectivist societies.
By contrast, they'd likely attenuate the more overt, look-at-me expressions of NFU. Group harmony, interdependence, fitting in those tend to be prioritized over standing out dramatically.
So the culture acts like a filter, turning the NFU volume up or down or changing its channel.
That's a great way to put it. The cultural context powerfully filters how NFU is expressed. It shows our desire to stand out is deeply molded by the society we're raised in.
That's a powerful filter. And it makes me wonder how much of that is just deeply ingrained in a society's history. Do our historical footprints tell a story about uniqueness that's really hard to change?
Well, they absolutely do. You can think of culture itself as a set of decision-making heuristics, shortcuts. And these evolve almost like natural selection. And big historical shocks or long-standing conditions can have incredibly persistent effects. They alter the costs and benefits of certain cultural traits, which then get passed down, often vertically from parents.
Can you give an example?
Sure. The sources mention things like the culture of honor in the U.S. South, linked to its history of herding societies where you had to fiercely protect your reputation, often combined with historically weaker state institutions.
Right.
Or how the adoption of the plow in agriculture, which favored male upper body strength, led historically to male specialization in farming and created persistent beliefs about women's roles that lasted for centuries.
Oh, okay.
Even the transatlantic slave trade shows these long shadows, impacting things like levels of trust or family structures in affected regions generations later.
So the core point is, a society's general stance on uniqueness or conformity isn't just arbitrary, it's a product of deep historical adaptation.
Exactly. It's baked in to some extent, which makes those societal norms and responses pretty resistant to rapid change. They serve a purpose, historically at least.
That resistance to change is crucial when we think about this next idea. Evolutionary transitions in individuality, or ETI.
Ah, yes, the superorganism concept.
Right. Some scientists propose human society is undergoing, or maybe has undergone, an ETI. Functioning like a superorganism, think ants, bees, or even cells forming a body.
Complex division of labor, collective decision-making.
Yeah, the criteria they look at are things like size, specialization, like the sheer number of unique jobs we have now, and inseparability. Can individuals even survive independently of society anymore?
And human societies score pretty high on those metrics, showing increasing complexity that matches the ETI pattern.
But here's the huge question, right? Does this mean we're inevitably losing our individual distinctiveness, becoming just cogs in the machine for the sake of the collective?
That's the crux of the debate, and it's where the unique nature of humans really throws a wrench in the works. Well, the idea of humans just becoming lower-level units faces strong counterarguments because of us. our vast behavioral flexibility, our profound self-awareness, our awareness of the environment, and crucially, that strong desire for freedom and uniqueness we've been talking about.
So we're not exactly like ants in a colony.
Not at all. These traits make humans, frankly, quite unsuitable for the typical ETI pattern, which often involves a major reduction in individual autonomy and reproductive capability.
So there's this inherent tension between the biological or social pressures pushing for integration for the benefits of cooperation and our deep psychological drives for distinction, for freedom, for NFU.
Exactly. That's the tightrope walk for humanity, as you put it earlier.
Yeah.
The future might really depend on how we manage this tension, getting the benefits of cooperation and complexity without sacrificing individual freedom and that healthy expression of uniqueness.
A very tricky balance. And speaking of balance, something often overlooked in these discussions of human uniqueness is our connection, or lack thereof, with nature.
A critical dimension.
Our deteriorating relationship with the natural world is seen by many as a fundamental cause of environmental crises. How does our NFU, our drive to be distinct from each other, connect with our place in the wider natural world?
It's a vital connection, often missed. Research shows that human-nature connectedness, or HNC, is linked to pro-environmental behaviors and better mental well-being.
And how do we increase that connection, just learning about nature?
Interestingly, not just through education. Direct contact, experiences in nature, and mindfulness practices seem much more effective.
Okay.
Now, if NFU primarily focuses on human-to-human differentiation, I'm different from you, then HNC introduces this crucial ecological dimension. A healthier expression of uniqueness might involve recognizing one's unique place within the interconnected web of nature.
Not just unique from other people, but unique within the whole system.
Exactly, rather than asserting uniqueness apart from nature or superior to it. The fundamental rules of nature, if you will, are about interdependence, balance, cycles.
So a truly prosperous human cultural society, it needs to integrate our NFU with that sense of ecological interconnectedness. Redefine specialness somehow.
That's the argument.
Yeah.
Redefining specialness perhaps to include responsible stewardship.
Yeah.
Finding your unique role within the ecosystem, not just within human society.
Yeah.
It's a shift from unique from nature to unique within nature.
Unique within nature. I really like that framing. Okay, let's shift focus now to how this need for specialness actually manifests and impacts us across the lifespan, starting with childhood.
Right, development.
Kids start comparing themselves really early, don't they? Setting the stage for self-evaluation. And it's clear this need for self-determination, recognition, it's universal. We even see it strongly in individuals with intellectual disabilities.
Yes, it seems fundamental to the human experience.
So what helps a child develop this sense of individual distinctiveness in a healthy way?
Well, healthy development relies on that complex interplay of biological factors, psychological ones, and crucially, the social environment. Family, peers, the neighborhood. Creating a secure foundation is key. This comes from things like valuing diverse cultures and languages, establishing positive, responsive relationships.
So feeling safe to explore.
Exactly. Nurturing an environment where each child feels seen, heard, and affirmed in their own unique way. That allows them to explore and express their budding identity safely.
And education obviously plays a huge role here in cultivating individuality.
Pivotal, yes.
Understanding human variability is critical, right?
Yeah.
A one-size-fits-all curriculum probably misses the mark for a lot of kids.
It can be counterproductive for some, definitely. Educators really need to grasp the depth of individuality to tolerate and, ideally, utilize those diverse expressions in the classroom.
But I've heard there can be a bit of a disconnect between what parents value and what teachers sometimes prioritize.
Yes, that's an interesting finding in some research. Parents often value things like self-realization and autonomy in their kids, but they might negatively judge emotional independence, maybe seeing it as defiance or being difficult. Teachers, on the other hand, sometimes devalue individualism in the classroom setting.
Why would teachers do that?
Well, they might perceive strong self-realization efforts as selfishness, or perhaps just disruptive to managing a group of 30 kids. The demands are different.
Right. Practical classroom management.
And the educational system itself, especially in Western societies, has this tension. It encourages independent thinking, critical analysis, yet it also imposes strong social influences that can limit true autonomy, conforming to schedules, rules, assessment methods.
So the key implication for education is?
Kids need to learn about their own differences and the differences of their peers early on, fostering an appreciation for variability itself. Public education aims to help students maximize potential, contribute to the public good. And that starts by recognizing that each person truly has a highly distinctive pattern of mind.
This pursuit of distinction, it can absolutely be a double-edged sword, can it? Especially for health and well-being.
Definitely double-edged.
We touched on self-esteem before. When NFU gets tangled up with contingent self-worth, how does that play out health-wise?
Well, as we said, low self-esteem predicts social problems.
Right.
But when self-worth is contingent on external domains needing to be the smartest, the best-looking, the most popular, that's when the pursuit becomes maladaptive. It can lead to chronic distress, anxiety, depression, impaired life satisfaction. Because you're always chasing validation that's outside your control.
And does this link between well-being and individualism show up at a societal level, too?
It does. Research suggests individualism acts as a moderator. In more individualistic cultures, there tends to be a stronger link between reporting high well-being and actually having better health outcomes.
Why might that be?
Possibly because well-being itself is just highly valued and talked about in those cultures. It's seen as a key goal. But the flip side is that in those same cultures, having low well-being might be appraised more negatively. It can lead to increased distress, maybe more harmful coping mechanisms, because you feel like you're failing at this important cultural goal.
So the pressure to be happy and successful can backfire if you're struggling.
It certainly can. The danger, again, is tying your sense of self, your specialness, solely to that external applause or achieving those culturally valued markers.
Okay. Uniqueness is also deeply, deeply intertwined with wealth and power dynamics.
Absolutely. Social hierarchies.
Social status allocates resources, leadership. It often makes unequal distributions seem sort of natural or inevitable. And we know structural inequality comes from discriminatory practices baked into institutions, legal, education, business.
Embedded biases.
Where power imbalances historically benefit some groups and deny benefits to others, perpetuating wealth gaps across generations.
The persistence of family wealth is significant, yes.
How does our fundamental need for positive distinctiveness, wanting to feel good about ourselves and our group, connect with these hierarchies?
Power itself changes psychology. Those in positions of power sometimes use more coercive tactics. They might increase social distance from subordinates, maybe distrust them more. Though power can also prompt action and foster optimism.
But there are risks.
Big risks, like making overly risky or unethical decisions because you feel less constrained. Now, connect that to social identity theory.
Okay.
This theory explains that individuals seek positive distinctiveness not just for themselves, but for their in-group, their own social category, whatever it might be.
Wanting us to be better than them.
Essentially, yes. This leads to in-group favoritism and sometimes out-group derogation, putting down the other group. This is a powerful psychological mechanism that helps perpetuate hierarchies based on perceived group differences, whether it's wealth, status, nationality, whatever.
So our innate drive to be special, or for our group to be special, can unfortunately get harnessed to justify and maintain inequality.
It's a key psychological engine driving some of those dynamics, yes.
And finally, looking at societies overall, we see the spectrum from cultural homogeneity to diversity.
Right. Tight versus loose cultures, sometimes called.
Homogeneous cultures think Saudi Arabia, maybe China, Japan. In some respects, they have widely shared values, dominant norms. Diversity within organizations might be constrained. Variation can be seen as deviant, potentially stifling creativity.
Conformity is prized.
Whereas heterogeneous cultures have more diverse values, organizational diversity tends to flourish more easily. Now, globalization, it seems to be pushing towards homogeneity.
That's a major concern. Globalization often leads to cultural homogenization, the spread of Western consumer culture, global brands, the dominance of English, social media platforms creating global trends.
And the downsides.
Erosion of local cultures, traditions, languages. Fears of cultural imperialism. It can also exacerbate inequalities if only certain groups benefit from globalization.
But are there any upsides to this mixing?
There can be positive consequences too. Social integration on some levels, maybe new forms of creativity and innovation that emerge from cultural fusion, new art forms, music ideas.
And within organizations or teams, what's the impact of having diverse individuals, people who think differently because of their backgrounds?
This is where diversity really shines. Diverse individuals bring different perspectives, experiences, ways of thinking. This demonstrably enhances excellence, innovation, and problem-solving capabilities.
But there's a catch.
The catch is it works best in psychologically safe environments, where people feel comfortable sharing those different perspectives without fear of judgment or retribution.
And the surprising truth you mentioned.
The surprising, maybe counterintuitive truth for some is that homogeneous teams groups where everyone thinks alike often make poor decisions, especially on complex problems. They lack the range of perspectives to spot flaws or see alternatives.
So true uniqueness, actual diversity of thought and experience, when embraced collectively, it actually leads to better outcomes.
It really does. It's a strength, not a weakness.
Okay, but this powerful need for uniqueness, it can unfortunately be manipulated, can it?
Very much so. It's a vulnerability.
Leaders can exploit this inherent need we have to feel special or to belong to a special, distinct group, often with terrible results. We've seen historical examples, cult leaders like Jim Jones using fear-based narratives, creating an us versus the evil world mentality.
Right, isolating followers.
Or even things like psychics, maybe like Peter Popoff, who reportedly used an earpiece, promising unique miracles or insights to exploit people's desire for something special.
Preying on that need for meaning or distinction.
How does the concept of identity politics fit into this potential for manipulation?
Identity politics is a really relevant example here.
Yeah.
It explicitly uses group identity based on race, religion, gender, nationality, whatever, to frame political claims or mobilize action. It asserts the distinctiveness and often the grievances of that group.
And it can be used for good.
Absolutely. It can be a vital tool for rectifying historical injustices, demanding recognition, giving voice to marginalized groups who need that distinct platform. That's the positive potential.
But the risk?
The risk is that it can also fracture populations. It can create rigid us versus them mentalities, where loyalty to the group identity overrides broader shared interests or even objective truth. The core vulnerability is that our fundamental desire for our group to be unique and positively distinct can be exploited to sow division and conflict rather than fostering cooperation or understanding.
And this exploitation, this us versus them, it often leads to breaking rules, norms, and even outright intergroup conflict.
It's a common pathway.
Deviance is basically just nonconformity to norms. But aggression, discrimination, they're often driven by conflicting beliefs and this need for group superiority we just talked about. I'm curious, how exactly does that idea of needing positive distinctiveness for our group fuel hostility towards other groups?
There are a few related mechanisms. Belief congruence theory suggests, pretty simply, that we're attracted to people with similar beliefs and tend to devalue those with dissimilar ones. Difference feels threatening.
Okay, similarity is comfortable.
Right. And social identity theory builds on that. Our need for positive distinctiveness, for our in-group wanting us to be good and special, leads us to make comparisons with out-groups.
To see how we measure up.
Exactly. And if our group distinctiveness feels threatened, perhaps because an out-group is perceived as too similar, or maybe challenging our values, that's when hostility can really ramp up. We need to reestablish that positive difference, sometimes by derogating them.
So threats are key.
Perceived threats are huge drivers of prejudice. These can be realistic threats, competition for jobs, resources, but often symbolic threats are even more powerful.
Symbolic threats? Like what?
Threats to our group's values, identity, way of life, the fear of cultural dilution or that they're undermining our morals. These symbolic threats are often more strongly linked to feelings like hate and disgust, and they tend to persist longer.
And this ties into ethnocentrism.
Directly. Ethnocentrism is seeing your own group as the center of everything, the standard, and viewing outsiders with suspicion or hostility. It reinforces that positive in-group evaluation.
And the paradox you mentioned earlier.
The chilling paradox is that sometimes hostility towards outsiders can actually help resolve conflicts within the in-group. It unites us against them. It's a dangerous but effective social glue sometimes.
Wow. So the very drive to feel unique and good about our group can, when misdirected or exploited, become a direct blueprint for division and conflict.
It's a powerful and, somewhat sobering dynamic.
These harmful expressions of uniqueness, the intolerance, the discrimination, they obviously raise huge ethical questions.
Absolutely. Moral territory.
Morality can feel subjective, culture-dependent, but many ethicists argue there are universal principles, like slavery, genocide. These seem inherently wrong, regardless of what a specific society might believe at a given time.
The idea of universal human rights, basic dignity.
How do we navigate this ethically, especially when dealing with intolerant expressions of uniqueness? Karl Popper's paradox of tolerance seems relevant here.
Extremely relevant. Popper's paradox highlights this critical dilemma. If a society offers unlimited tolerance, even to those who are actively intolerant. It risks allowing the intolerant to eventually destroy tolerance itself. They exploit the tolerance of others to gain power and then eliminate it.
So tolerance has limits.
Popper argued that a truly tolerant society must, paradoxically, be prepared to deny tolerance to those who promote intolerance, especially if they refuse rational argument and advocate suppression or violence. There has to be a limit to safeguard tolerance itself.
So our ethical frameworks need to guide this, like respect for persons.
Exactly. Principles like respect for persons emphasize treating individuals as autonomous agents, but also protecting those with diminished autonomy. It requires balancing individual freedom with preventing harm. Social work ethics, for instance, explicitly prioritize social justice, challenging discrimination, upholding cultural diversity, but also ensuring dignity and worth.
So it's not anything goes in the name of uniqueness. We have to draw lines when expressions cause harm or undermine the very foundations of a decent, tolerant society.
That's the ethical tightrope, celebrating diversity while protecting against harm and intolerance.
Okay, so how should society respond to harmful individuality? To those instances where the desire to be unique, or for one's group to be unique, crosses into intolerance, hate, or causing real harm?
It requires a really careful, multi-pronged approach. Patience and tolerance were appropriate, but also firm intervention when necessary.
And understanding the roots?
Yes, recognizing that intolerance often stems from fear, insecurity, a perceived need to defend the self or the group. Stereotypes often target those perceived as different because difference can feel threatening.
So what should guide the response?
Dignity, justice, and safety should be the guiding principles. First, upholding respect for persons and autonomy assessing risk, sometimes needing to reevaluate decision-making capacity if someone poses a danger. Second, pursuing social justice, actively challenging discrimination, ensuring equitable access to resources and opportunities for everyone, addressing the systemic issues that might fuel resentment.
What about after harm has occurred?
That's where approaches like restorative justice and rehabilitation come in, focusing on repairing harm, holding people accountable in meaningful ways involving the community, and often using trauma-informed care, recognizing that perpetrators may also have histories of trauma.
And prevention.
Promoting positive social norms is crucial empathy, understanding, actively challenging stereotypes in education and media. And finally, strategic intervention, recognizing those limits of tolerance we discussed. Incitement to hatred or violence isn't just unique expression. It's often criminal and needs to be treated as such.
So the ultimate goal isn't to stamp out uniqueness altogether?
Absolutely not. The goal is to guide its expression towards constructive ends, to channel that powerful drive in ways that enrich society, foster innovation, and allow personal fulfillment, rather than letting it manifest in ways that cause harm or division.
That's a powerful call to action, guiding uniqueness. Let's look towards the future now, thinking about AI, human evolution, and how we might build a more balanced society.
The path forward.
AI is rapidly changing everything, including our understanding of human nature. It's challenging definitions of intelligence, consciousness, maybe even creativity. How can AI help us understand, or maybe even shape, this deep human need for uniqueness?
AI's role is fascinating here. It's not just about replacing human skills. It often complements them. It can automate mundane tasks, freeing us up for more imaginative work. It can spark creativity by revealing hidden patterns in data we'd never see. It can give leaders more time for strategic thinking. It drives continuous learning.
But the big philosophical questions remain. Can AI really be intelligent like us? Conscious? Truly creative? Or just sophisticated pattern matching?
Those are huge ongoing debates.
Yeah.
But setting aside the "is AI human-like" question for a moment, from an analytical perspective, AI offers powerful tools.
How so for understanding uniqueness?
AI can model the incredibly complex interplay between our innate need for uniqueness and all the cultural and situational factors that modulate it. It could identify patterns that consistently lead to positive outcomes versus negative ones.
Like predicting problems.
Essentially, yes. AI could analyze historical data, social media trends, political rhetoric to perhaps predict when NFU is being dangerously exploited, or how certain cultural narratives might be reinforcing maladaptive self-verification loops we talked about.
So AI could help us optimize strategies, foster the good kinds of individuality, and maybe mitigate the destructive potentials.
That's the hope. It could act almost like a sophisticated mirror, reflecting back the complex dynamics of our own drive for uniqueness, helping us understand and manage it better.
That's an incredible potential. Okay, looking forward then. How do we apply all of this knowledge, the biology, the psychology, the sociology, the ethics, to designing for, let's say, a healthy, educated, and good child, one who can navigate their own need for specialness constructively.
It really requires that multifaceted approach we've been building towards. It has to be rooted in positive relationships, diverse experiences, and robust developmental support systems.
What are the key ingredients?
Nurturing relationships are absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
Warm, responsive caregiving from the very beginning, talking, reading, singing, cuddling.
Huh.
Also fostering early friendships, learning social skills. Valuing diversity and uniqueness is crucial. Celebrating different backgrounds, abilities, cultures, being sensitive to children with special needs, encouraging families to share their home cultures and languages, creating that secure base where difference is normal and valued.
And helping kids understand themselves.
Yes, developing self-awareness and emotional regulation, helping children recognize and name their feelings, teaching them calming strategies, modeling positive ways to handle frustration or conflict.
Giving them some agency, too.
Absolutely. Promoting autonomy and responsibility through age-appropriate choices, letting them try things, solve problems, but also balancing that individual freedom with a sense of collective responsibility, how their actions affect others.
And education's role in this ideal future.
Education for individuality, where children become acquainted with their own differences and those of their peers from an early age, fostering that appreciation for variability. Flexible curricula that can nurture diverse gifts and talents, not just a narrow academic band. And ideally, having teachers and parents align more closely on valuing both autonomy and positive social contribution.
Okay, so finally, let's bring it all together. As we wrap up this deep dive, how do we cultivate a truly prosperous human cultural society? One that embraces uniqueness but maintains cohesion. What's that ultimate balance we should be striving for?
The ultimate balance, I think, lies in skillfully navigating that inherent dynamic tension between individual uniqueness and collective cohesion. It's not about picking one over the other.
So what does that navigation look like?
It means truly embracing diversity of thought, experience, background as a strength. Understanding, based on evidence, that it enhances excellence, innovation, problem solving, especially when coupled with psychological safety.
Okay, diversity as fuel.
Yes. It means fostering healthier social comparison habits, reducing that reliance on external validation, appreciating diverse forms of excellence beyond just fame or fortune. It requires balancing individualism with collective responsibility, encouraging personal growth, self-expression, pursuing passions, but always instilling a sense of accountability to the community, to the planet.
Leadership is key here, too.
Ethical leadership and governance are essential. Leaders who avoid exploiting identity for division, who actively promote inclusivity, and who are committed to addressing structural inequalities that breed resentment.
And our connection to nature.
Cultivating that human nature connectedness we talked about. More experiential engagement, shifting our perspective to see humanity as part of nature, not separate from it. Redefining specialness, perhaps, to include ecological stewardship.
What about societal norms?
We need adaptive social norms. Norms that allow for constructive nonconformity and innovation, but still maintain necessary cohesion. Understanding our historical adaptations helps here knowing why certain norms exist and when they might need to evolve.
And finally, dealing with conflict and intolerance.
Promoting genuine tolerance for diverse beliefs and ways of life, while clearly understanding and upholding the limits of tolerance when faced with incitement or harm. Using restorative justice approaches where possible to heal divides rather than just punish.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? We've covered a huge amount of ground.
We certainly have.
We've seen that this human imperative to be special is this incredibly powerful, innate drive. It's woven right into our biology, our brains, our societies.
It's deeply embedded.
It's this dynamic force, capable of fueling amazing innovation and deep personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
But also, if it's unchanneled, or worse, exploited, it can lead straight to division, conflict, distress.
A real double-edged sword.
This deep dive has shown us, I hope, how intimately our desire for distinctiveness is tied to everything. From your own self-esteem and how you compare yourself to others, to the very structures of our societies, how power works, and even our relationship with the natural world.
It connects everywhere.
Understanding this complexity, especially that constant interplay between our individual needs and our collective existence, it's not just an academic exercise, is it?
Not at all. It's fundamentally practical.
It feels like a critical endeavor for shaping human flourishing. For you, for your family, for generations to come.
Ultimately, the future of human society might really hinge on how well we manage this fundamental tension, can we achieve the immense benefits of high levels of cooperation, complexity, interdependence, all while preserving and actively nurturing individual freedom and the healthy, constructive expression of uniqueness?
That's the challenge.
It's a huge challenge. It calls for innovative solutions, conscious societal design, maybe even, as we've touched on, a new definition of what it truly means to be uniquely human in this interconnected world.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you plenty to mull over, lots of new perspectives to explore on your own drive for uniqueness.
Food for thought, definitely.
This is DigitView.